Hi, my name is Dylan Sumnicht, and today I will be pitching you my youth sports camp idea called Camp Immersion. First, a little background on myself. I'm passionate about youth sports because I was once one of those kids who wanted to go to every event in camp to improve themselves in any way possible. Today, I umpire Little League baseball in the summer to earn some extra cash, and because I enjoy spending time with the kids and giving them any teaching points I can. I'm also an assistant coach for my local high school football team where I help with the receiving corps. Throughout my time growing up, as I mentioned before, I went to a lot of camps for baseball and football. Some were good, some were not so great and not worth the money. My parents also spent a very high amount of money on my private pitching lessons growing up, which I will touch more on the next coming slides. But first, some youth sports facts. According to a study done by the Aspen Institute, they found that the average family spends about $700 annually on youth sports. Now, obviously, sports such as hockey are going to cost families upwards of $2,000, and sports such as track are going to have minimal costs, but the average comes out to around $700 per year. To show that there's a business in youth sports, I included that it is a $17 billion industry. With that, what I mentioned from my personal experience, you can see that parents are willing to spend a considerable amount of money to see their kids succeed athletically. In this graph here, this is a study done by the Aspen Institute, which shows how much money parents spend annually on their kids' youth camps. So as I mentioned before, ice hockey is above $2,500. But the sports I want you to focus in on are baseball, softball, volleyball, and tackle football, which are towards the middle part of the graph. You can see that families spend over $500 for all those sports to see their kids go to lessons or camps or buy equipment and things like that. So on to camps today. On the local level, a lot of youth camps are run by colleges, which is not always the best experience for the camper, as the instructors are usually athletes on the team and are not always the best at teaching, or they just don't want to. Growing up, I attended a lot of local camps put on by those in and around my community, but those two are not always the best in terms of what campers get out of them. Camps are sometimes overpriced as well. As I mentioned before, my parents paid $35 an hour for me to take small group pitching lessons growing up. And a lot of times the camps are just not as engaging for the youth as they should be. It was a lot of standing around and waiting. Some other examples listed below are the US Baseball Academy, who advertises 18 hours of instruction for just $360. And the UWL volleyball team has a serving skills camp put on by the team for a little under $100 for 5.5 hours of instruction. As you can see, there's a lot of issues with youth camps, and there is also a profitable market for them. So on to my proposal in Camp Immersion. Camp Immersion will include singular youth sports camps for both male and female, including sports such as baseball, softball, football, basketball, and volleyball in one central location. All of the training and daily technique sessions will be created by professional athletes as well as professional trainers. At Immersion, campers will not just be instructed by professionals, but they will be able to hang out and learn important life lessons from them for the athletes that they look up to. Campers will be exposed to professional instruction given by current and former pro athletes, top-tier facilities and training equipment, the ability to immerse themselves in the sport they enjoy. Camp Immersion looks to emphasize the camping experience as well as the athletic. Though campers will be instructed in different locations throughout the day, campers are not just attending mandatory sessions. After trainings are done, campers can go for a swim on the on-site pool, or they can go to the arts and crafts area, or just hang out by the fire with some friends that they've met. Camp Immersion will only provide instruction for the months of June through August, as that is when kids are out of school and on summer break. In the other parts of the year, Camp Immersion will look to rent out facilities to teams who need practice facilities or want to host tournaments or events. The potential for growth for Immersion is immense. With plans to operate at only one location in the United States, Camp Immersion has a lot of possibilities for expansion in the future. Whether that be into other states or expanding its initial operations, investors can capitalize on an investment that has potential for very high growth. Onto the organizational plan. Owners of Camp Immersion will include myself, Dylan Sumnicht, and various investors from around the nation. As a youth sports camp, owners will be passionate about youth sports as well as the idea of kids enjoying and improving their game while meeting new friends along the way. Each respective sport will have their own manager who is in charge of ensuring everything training-wise is running smoothly. In terms of location, Camp Immersion will need to be located in an area with plenty of space to offer, as well as a centralized location in the United States. The ideal location would be in Nebraska, as it is in the middle of the US and has good weather in the summer for camps, with also plenty of space to offer. The facilities located on the camp will need to be built new and will be owned entirely by Camp Immersion and not leased. These facilities will be rented out and used year-round when the camp is not being utilized in the summertime for its main camps. I will touch on the financials for these facilities later on. The suppliers for Camp Immersion will be General Steel Buildings, who specializes in building steel indoor facilities. And when it comes to the turf on the indoor and outdoor fields, Immersion will utilize AstroTurf, who is a leader in the turf industry currently. When it comes to the cabins at the camp where kids are going to sleep, Immersion will use Lincoln, Nebraska native Sampson Construction. Sampson specializes in building schools and hotels, and they recently built suites on the University of Nebraska campus with over 1,000 beds, making them a good option for construction at Immersion. Under the marketing plan, Camp Immersion is set to establish itself with one central hub in the United States, as I mentioned. Because of this, the target market is going to be very broad. Immersion will look to target athletes from around the nation who are invested in their sport and are looking to improve their game alongside professional athletes' instruction. Immersion will target youth campers between the ages of 8 and 17. Some marketing objectives for Immersion are to build a differentiated product strategy, build brand awareness, and establish an influential sponsorship base. In the United States, the average cost for a day camp ranges from $200 to $800, while the average week-long camp ranges from $700 to $2,000, according to a study by CNBC. With the high-quality services that campers are receiving, along with the high startup costs, Camp Immersion will need to position itself as a luxury-style camp. Immersion will look to attract customer bases from wealthier families, as the cost of professional instruction and week-long housing is not cheap, as discussed further in the pricing section. Due to this, Immersion will look to brand itself as an elite top-tier camp for athletes who are really invested in their game. Going back to the professional athlete sponsorships, Camp Immersion will attempt to become a household name to youth athletes by utilizing social media ads and television commercials featuring sponsored athletes. As you can see, I included Michael Jordan here on Wheaties. Wheaties uses professional athletes to gain their market. Additional forms of advertisement will include social media tours of the state-of-the-art facilities and professional athletes there. Advertisement deals with sites like Barstool Sports and podcasts like the Pat McAfee Show to raise brand awareness. And in terms of competition for Camp Immersion, there are thousands of youth camps that occur across the nation. Immersion's marketing must position itself as you get what you pay for type camp, rather than a local camp or college trying to get extra funding for their upcoming season. Immersion must also highlight the quality of its camp compared to the amateur instruction received at others. So now on to a SWOT analysis. In terms of strengths, the youth camp industry has been growing by 3.4% for the past 5 years, with the 5-year outlook showing continued growth of around 3%. So it has a very good outlook. As mentioned before, Camp Immersion intends to be marketed to higher class families. Because of this, it is important to note that the growth of households that earn more than $100,000 together is forecasted to continue to grow over the next 5 years. Other strengths include the opportunity for kids to come back every summer to improve their game, because the camps will be offered to different age levels and have different training for each level. As for weaknesses, the sizable investment required for such a camp is an initial risk that will have to be faced. Investors such as yourself will have to fully believe in and back the idea that I'm proposing. Finding a plot of land that will be sizable enough to hold all the facilities required is another challenge that we'll be facing. Once started, there are possible risks that parents will not want to send their kids to week-long camps that may be very far away from home as well. Other risks that may arise once operating are weather hazards. In some cases, the campers may not get the full experience due to weather conditions. The camp may be forced indoors and social activities may have to be canceled. In these cases, partial refunds may need to be looked into. Some opportunities for Camp Immersion lie within the expansion of the camp. If the original Camp Immersion is a success, the camp can expand around the nation, adding different sports and different styles of camps. This may include camps for different skill levels and ages, camps put on by different professional athletes, and camps that are just weekend long. With more locations and facilities, Immersion can expect to have more rental revenue as well. Lastly, threats that Immersion faces come from the competition of the over 12,000 other summer camps in the country. However, to make that number sound a little better, the concentration in the market is low, with the top 3 industries accounting for only 6% of the total summer camp industry. And now onto the financial plan. As you can see, I have broken down financials by athletic facilities, camp facilities, recurring annual expenses, and annual income. By researching similar college facilities and the costs associated with them, I established these estimates. For recurring expenses, I looked at employee wages and marketing costs that will fluctuate based on the year-to-year marketing budget. And by charging each attendee between $1,400 and $1,600 based off of their respective sport, along with rental income per year, I established an annual income projection. Lastly, I had calculated that the break-even point for the initial investment into camp immersion would be around 11 years. I've gone much more in depth to the finances in my printed proposal, where I included a breakdown of facility costs and rental income projections. I'd like to thank you for your time and to urge you once more to give my written proposal a read, as I go way more in depth on there. By investing in this venture, you are becoming a part of a new innovative idea that will change the dynamic of youth sports. Thank you.